Good morning. It's 10 a.m. Eastern and 7 o'clock on the West Coast. I'm Garrett Haken for Christine Romans. Let's get you current. Severe storms lash the Northeast. A confirmed tornado touches down in New York, and we're tracking a new threat of storms today. The FBI is escalating its probe into former Congressman Eric Swalwell, searching his home and seizing devices. What more we know this morning. Burying the hatchet, President Trump speaks publicly with his fixer-turned-frenemy Michael Cohen. What led to their radio reunion. And the defense nearing the end of its case in the high-profile trial of Lindsay Clancy. How soon this case could be in the hands of a jury. Good to be with you this busy Friday, August 21st. We've got a lot of news to get to this morning, and we begin this hour with that extreme weather up and down the East Coast. Cleanup this morning after strong winds and rain slammed the Northeast overnight. A confirmed tornado caused this damage to a beach club on New York's Long Island. You can see debris just scattered all over the place. And take a look at this. Winds were so strong in Pennsylvania, bricks were ripped off of buildings and roofs completely collapsed. And the threat isn't over yet. 22 million people are at risk of more severe storms across the country. Meanwhile, stifling heat and humidity will send temperatures soaring into the triple digits today. 63 million people are under heat alerts as we head into the weekend. NBC News correspondent Valerie Castro is on the ground in New York where that rare tornado touched down.
Here in Nassau County, New York, the cleanup begins today after those storms battered this beach club behind me. You can see some of the damage that is still left over there. County officials say no one was seriously injured or hurt, but a possible tornado caused severe damage.
Oh, my God.
Overnight, wild storms drenching the Northeast. On New York's Long Island, a state of emergency and dramatic waterspouts tearing through the Atlantic Beach area. Cabanas at a popular beach club torn apart. Powerful thunderstorms dumping heavy rain and causing flash flooding across parts of neighboring New York City and New Jersey, too. Dover, Delaware, also under a state of emergency after a reported tornado touched down there overnight, causing significant damage.
Well, that is a slight tornado right there.
Storms ripping the roof off a motel seen from the road. Multiple tornadoes in Graves County, Kentucky, crumpling this giant grain bin and knocking over a gas station canopy. High winds splintering trees and damaging this high school in Columbia, Pennsylvania. While multiple counties in central Ohio are drying out after getting soaked Thursday with nearly 4 inches of rain. The downpours flooding neighborhoods, submerging parks and cars.
The flood, all this. I can't even see my basement.
In other parts of the country, people looking for ways to beat the oppressive heat. Out west, temperatures soaring into the 90s. The Poudre School District in Colorado dismissing students 2 hours early because they don't have air conditioning in stifling classrooms. Valerie Castro, NBC News.
Let's bring in our NBC News meteorologist, Angie Lastman, now. So, Angie, we've got more storms on the way, one of the last weekends of summer. Folks really cannot catch a break. What do you track?
And I hate to say it, but the weekend doesn't look that great for some of these coastal areas, Garrett. There's going to be, again, kind of this another round of showers and thunderstorms and unsettled conditions. But we are getting some improvements happening across parts of the Northeast. Still some lingering showers across parts of northern New England and farther to the south across the Southeast is where we're already ramping things up for thunderstorm activity. But at least places like New York, Washington, D.C., you're quiet for now, and you're going to still have that breakthrough most of the day today before we ramp things up tomorrow. It's the Southeast, though, that we're going to watch for the most active weather through the day today, along with some showers and thunderstorms across the Great Lakes. We're going to be watching that cold front kind of slide to the east here as we get through tomorrow, and that does bring that unsettled weather that I mentioned across parts of the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic, impacting those beach plans. By Sunday, better conditions from Washington, D.C. south, but now you see some of those showers and thunderstorms still kind of lingering across parts of New England. Through today, we have that, again, chance of some of these severe storms popping up. Chicago, one of those places across parts of the northern plains, also going to see some activity. Maybe hail, wind gusts are going to be our main threats. Those same threats on the table for the Southeast, Raleigh, Columbia included in that, as well as parts of eastern Georgia. On top of the fact that we could see some just really impressive rainfall, lots of moisture associated with this, so not going to be hard for us to see some flash flooding. Specifically concerned about areas of the Carolinas Carolinas, where we could pick up maybe 2, 3, and upwards of 6 inches in some of these spots, Garrett. So it's going to be kind of another bumpy couple of days when it comes to the shower, the thunderstorm activity, and the potential for some severe storms.
And the heat's the story in the western half of the country. Just how hot's it going to get for my folks out in Texas and parts west?
Yeah, the heat is, I sound like a broken record still with this as well. We don't have any real relief for folks across the southern tier of the country. It's 106 today in Dallas, 109 for what it feels like, and really just copy and paste over the next couple of days for all of these same regions. 96 in Memphis, 101 for the heat index. All the same advice is going to go for us as we get through at least the next couple of days. If you're looking for a little bit of relief, you're going to get it in places like Chicago. It, of course, hasn't been quite as hot as it's been farther south, but 77 on Sunday and Monday, just 80 degrees for your high on Tuesday. Unfortunately, I think folks in Mobile would like those numbers and really deserve them at this point. It's upper 90s to mid 90s Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. We've still got actual temperatures in Dallas, 100 plus all the way through the beginning of our work week. And if that wasn't enough, we've also got, some active weather across parts of the Pacific. Garrett, 35-mile-per-hour winds with this tropical depression 2C. We are going to expect this to kind of get its act together a little better as we get through the next 24 to 48 hours. The good news is the center of this system will be south of the Hawaiian Islands, but it does still bring a whole lot of rain to the area. So we're going to be concerned once again, the same kind of situation that we saw last weekend, we'll see again this weekend with 10 inches, maybe 15 inches of rain, specifically concerned about that flooding across the Big Island where the heaviest of the rain is expected to be. So busy when it comes to the weather still as we roll into the weekend, unfortunately.
The meteorologist work never ends, Angie Lassman. Thank you for that.
Of course.
And we've got breaking news out of Alaska this morning where a charter plane carrying 2 pilots and 6 passengers crashed at a remote radar site, killing everyone on board. NBC News can confirm 2 Army Corps of Engineer employees were among the fatalities. An investigation is now underway. NBC's Morgan Chesky is following this developing story for us this morning. Morgan?
Yeah, we're learning more about this charter plane that was carrying 8 people when it crashed at a remote military radar site in southwest Alaska, killing everyone on board. The U.S. military says that this civilian contracted aircraft crashed at Cape Neuenhem Long-Range Radar Site Airport. That's about 450 miles from the state's capital of Anchorage, where this plane took off from. In a statement, U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General Robert Davis says, quote, "These individuals were dedicated professionals carrying out a vital mission in a demanding environment." The twin-engine Cessna, meanwhile, crashed shortly after noon local time, according to the FAA. It is still unclear what caused this crash, but we do know that weather conditions at the time included up to about a half-mile of visibility with light winds and low clouds. Alaska, of course, notoriously one of the most difficult and challenging areas to fly in all the country. Senator Lisa Murkowski expressed her condolences after the crash, posting on social media, "Alaska is praying for those on board, their loved ones, and the team at Security Aviation." Meantime, the NTSB is leading this investigation and should provide updates going forward. We'll send it back to you.
Morgan Chesky for us in Los Angeles. Morgan, thank you. And we've got more breaking news. The U.S. and Canada are resuming talks this morning, just hours before another deadline for new tariffs. Earlier this week, President Trump delayed new 50% tariffs, moving the deadline for talks to midnight tonight. Representatives from both sides are reportedly expected to resume those talks today. Joining us now is NBC News business and economy reporter Ali Canal. So, Ali, we know the trade reps met Thursday, basically saying a deal is close. There's more talks today. What needs to happen between now and midnight?
Well, the good thing is we just confirmed that the country's trade minister and lead negotiator of Canada, they are expected to meet with U.S. officials at 10:30 a.m. this morning. So in just around 15 minutes after those talks happened last night. But there is that question mark. OK, we're getting closer and closer to the wire here, and we still don't have a formalized deal. There does seem to be some pushback from the provinces. So that's something to remember and what makes this negotiation pretty complicated, because Prime Minister Mark Carney can't just say a blanket, sure, yes, I agree to all of this. It has to have the buy-in from the provinces. Now, if these 50% tariffs do go into effect at midnight, it's important to remember that they are retaliatory by nature. We have seen this tit-for-tat trade relationship between the U.S. and Canada over the past year, which they are neighbors in the north. They're one of our biggest U.S. trade trading partners is not something that we want to see. So these negotiations, they're very important. And the hope is that a deal can get done.
And the administration has had one bad economic headline after the other this week. The debt number's $40 trillion. The bond markets are a mess. What happens if we get these tariffs kind of spilling out into next week?
Yeah, it's been a busy week. And this is where all the economic stories start to collide here, because if these tariffs do go into effect, that's going to impact $20 billion worth of Canadian goods, everything from clothing to alcohol to building materials. And if those U.S. importers choose to pass along those costs to consumers, that's going to add to inflation that already is pretty high, hovering at around 3.4%. Remember, the Fed's target is 2%. So prices have been very sticky. And if investors think if prices will stay higher for longer, if they think the Fed will hike interest rates, that's going to create some jitters in the bond market and push longer term yields up. That means borrowing costs for consumers, for businesses, and for the U.S. government will be more expensive. So that could potentially add to the $40 trillion in debt that we're already seeing right now.
And the White House is trying to take some action, or say they're trying to take some action on consumer prices today. The president posting about this deal to bring in more beef imports. He says costs were up during the last administration. Obviously, there's some truth to that, but tell us the real story here. What do we think is going on with this announcement?
Yeah, look, this is nothing new. Beef prices has been rising for years, and a big reason for that is due to supply. So the U.S. cattle herd has shrunk to dramatically low levels. We're at historic low levels at a time where consumers are still demanding a heck of a lot of beef. And we've seen that pressure continue during Trump's second term. You're seeing on your screen now, over the past decade, beef prices are up 70%, up near $7 a pound, just so expensive. So Trump's plan is essentially to bring more beef in from overseas to boost that supply and hopefully bring prices down. So according to his Truth Social post, for the next 90 days, he says the U.S. will allow up to 300,000 metric tons of ground beef to come into the country without triggering the higher tariffs that would normally kick in above certain import levels. And the president also says there's a commitment for that beef to be sold at a 25% discount compared to market prices. Now, there's still those questions on where the beef is coming from and who has agreed to those discounts. We don't have those answers from the White House just yet, but at the very least, it's on the president's radar.
Yeah, and how they're going to enforce that, I think, is a very good question.
Exactly.
We've asked the White House. I think we're all over them on this. And Alec Canal, thank you for that reporting. You have a lot on your plate today, too. All right, now to a reunion most of us were not expecting. After years of publicly feuding and trading insults, Michael Cohen and President Trump have apparently made amends. The president appearing on Cohen's radio show yesterday. At one point, Cohen even quoted a Bible verse about forgiveness and played the song, "Why Can't We Be Friends?" Here's more on this unexpected twist. A surprising and rare reconciliation this morning between President Trump and Michael Cohen, his longtime fixer turned foe, complete with musical cues.
Mr. President.
Hello, Michael.
You and I have obviously traveled a pretty rocky road together.
Cohen hosting the president on his radio show, with the two men largely avoiding talk of their bitter feud, instead reminiscing about their partnership.
Boss, you remember when I was by your side?
Before their falling out, Cohen was Mr. Trump's right-hand man for a decade, publicly claiming he'd take a bullet for his boss.
Michael Cohen is a very talented lawyer.
But their relationship imploded in a very public way when Cohen faced scrutiny from federal investigators, with the FBI raiding his office and hotel room back in 2018. Cohen eventually pled guilty to tax evasion, bank fraud, and campaign finance violations, serving 3 years in prison. In 2019, he blasted his former boss before Congress.
He is a racist. He is a con man. And he is a cheat.
The president repeatedly calling Cohen a rat.
A sleazebag named Michael Cohen.
In 2024, Cohen served as the star witness in a hush money case against the president, who was convicted of falsifying business records related to paying porn star Stormy Daniels. In the interview, the president praising Cohen for recanting his testimony, arguing Cohen was coerced.
They weaponized you. They weaponized a lot of people. And I respect the fact that you recanted everything you said.
Yesterday, Cohen not saying whether he would stand by his testimony.
I want to live for the future.
And saying he hasn't directly asked President Trump for a pardon, but mentioning that he has applied for one during the last administration.
And I just rewrote the cover letter, removing the name of President Joe Biden and inserting the name President Donald Trump.
We've only heard part of that conversation. The rest drops Sunday. Testimony in the murder trial of Lindsay Clancy is winding down. The defense is expected to rest its case as early as today. Yesterday, we heard pivotal testimony from the hospital chaplain who met with Clancy one day after the murders. The first thing Clancy said to her, quote, "I'm so glad my children are safe." Her testimony echoed previous accounts of the voice Clancy allegedly heard telling her to kill her 3 children. Today's proceedings are expected to last a full day after the judge dismissed the jury early each of the last 2 days. Joining us now, NBC News correspondent Stephen Romo has been covering the case, and NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris. So, Stephen, the prosecution is expected to call 3 rebuttal witnesses today. What are we going to hear?
Yeah, this is an important part of the case. We've long said this is going to be expert versus expert on this case. Prosecutors did not call these experts when they were presenting their case. They're now using them as rebuttal witnesses. So far, we've heard from psychiatrists who have directly treated Lindsay Clancy, and we also heard from Dr. Paul Zeisel, a psychologist who testified for the defense, saying that Lindsay Clancy was in a state of psychosis. We are very likely to hear a much different story from these prosecution witnesses today.
And Misty, if all goes according to plan today, we could start closing arguments as early as Monday. What should we expect from both sides here?
So the law in Massachusetts is actually kind of unique when it comes to lack of criminal responsibility. Their version of the insanity defense. Usually, in most jurisdictions, prosecutors have the burden to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. But when you raise an insanity defense, it shifts to the defense. In Massachusetts, that never happens. So expect the defense to be hammering home. The prosecutors not only have to prove she committed the crime, but they also have to prove that she knew what she was doing was wrong and could control herself in that critical time frame. Prosecutors, on the other hand, are really going to focus on this really small period of time, 45 minutes, the fact that she killed her 3 children during that time frame. She says she had an auditory hallucination. Is that believable, or is that just a convenient excuse? That's going to be their theme. They're looking to convict her of first-degree murder, premeditation, extreme cruelty, and atrocity. So it's going to be a day to watch this unfold.
So to be clear, the burden of proof is on the prosecution for her mental state, not on the defense. That's very interesting.
Very
rare.
That is
very different. All right. So, Stephen, what are the other sort of side topics in this whole trial? Has been the focus on postpartum depression and mental health. We've seen a lot of demonstrators outside the courtroom the last couple of days. Talk a little bit about that and what we may expect to see in the coming days, too.
Yeah, this was a powerful scene. You see them here standing silently. This was meant to bring attention to maternal mental health and mental health in general, but it was also very specifically to support Lindsay Clancy. The organizer saw Lindsay breaking down in court as autopsy details were revealed and wanted to do something to show the support, and she got so many others around her who have very strong feelings about mental health care in the United States.
Misty, we mentioned the chaplain's testimony here and the hearing of voices. Just how pivotal is that in the defense's case? How much more do we expect to hear about that next week?
Yeah, we're going to hear about it. So on January 4th, Lindsay Clancy met with a defense expert. This is, right after she was in the hospital starting January 25th. And this is a couple of years ago, 2003. So what the prosecution has said is that this idea of voices and the voices commanding her actually came from the defense expert who visited her on February 4th. Well, the chaplain came in and said, well, I met with her starting the 25th. And on the 31st, when she could speak, she told me about the voices. She said, I'm glad the kids are safe. So that has been something that's pivotal. Prosecution went hard on her and cross. I'm not sure that landed. Calling this chaplain a liar might not have been a great strategy.
Yeah, that's an interesting tactic. Stephen, the judge dismissed the jury early the last couple of days. It apparently spoke to the jurors one by one. What do we know about that? What's our expectation for today?
Yeah, this caused a lot of speculation. Questioning them one by one actually seemed to do with what we just saw, the rally in support of Lindsay, since it was right outside the courthouse, asking if they were impacted by it or if it will affect them at all. That's according to reporting from NBC Boston. And ending early, it seems like there was an issue with one of the expert witnesses for the defense. We had reporting from the Boston Globe last night on Top Story with Tom Yamas mentioning that. It seems like there was some type of issue. Caused a lot of speculation, a lot of rumors, but it seems to be something pretty mundane.
All right, well, I know you guys will be following it all day. Stephen Romo, Misty Maris, thank you both for your reporting. And much more to come this hour, including new information on the alleged ISIS-inspired plot foiled in New York, what we're learning about the FBI sting, plus stunning images of fishermen stranded at sea floating in a cooler, how they were rescued. And later this hour, drone deliveries promise to be the future, but are they ready for prime time? We'll get you current after the break. This morning, the FBI appears to be expanding its investigation into allegations of sexual misconduct against former California Congressman Eric Swalwell. Agents stopping Swalwell at San Francisco International Airport, seizing his cell phone and laptop, according to a person familiar with the matter, and then searching his Washington, D.C. home the next day. The congressman already faces criminal investigations in New York and Los Angeles. NBC Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles is following the developments this morning. Ryan?
Swalwell resigned his seat in Congress earlier this year after multiple allegations of sexual misconduct from at least 4 women, which Swalwell continues to deny. Now, NBC News can confirm that federal agents stopped Swalwell at an airport and raided his home in Washington, seizing multiple electronics.
The investigation into former California Congressman Eric Swalwell is growing this morning. A person familiar with the matter tells NBC News federal agents stopped Swalwell at San Francisco International Airport on Saturday, seizing a cell phone and laptop as part of a search warrant related to sexual misconduct claims against him. Agents also searching his home in Washington, D.C. the next day, according to the source.
In order for federal investigators to be involved, there would have to be some type of federal crime that's implicated. So this is a significant escalation of this case.
The FBI declining to comment on the ongoing probe. The search coming 3 months after federal law enforcement reached out to at least one woman who had publicly accused Swalwell of sexual misconduct. That according to a source familiar with the interaction. The married father of 3, once considered one of California's most prominent Democrats and a favorite for governor, resigning his seat in the House and ending his gubernatorial run after multiple women came forward accusing him of varying degrees of sexual misconduct. Lana Drewis says she met Swalwell in 2018 and thought they were developing a friendship. But during their third encounter, she says he sexually assaulted her.
He raped me, and he choked me. And while he was choking me, I lost consciousness.
Ali Samarco and Annika Albrecht, who spoke exclusively to CBS, sharing that Swalwell sent them explicit text messages and nude photos.
It started out as professional and platonic, and then slowly they became more and more explicit.
At the time, Swalwell vehemently denying all allegations.
They're absolutely false. They did not happen. They have never happened. And I will fight them with everything that I have.
But ultimately caving to bipartisan pressure to end his 13-year run in the House.
Overnight, some of Swalwell's alleged victims saying in a statement that today feels like the step toward accountability that we've waited a long time for. NBC News reached out to Swalwell's attorney, but so far, we've not heard back.
Ryan Nobles reporting in Washington. A woman in upstate New York is accused of plotting an ISIS-inspired attack on the state capitol building in Albany. Federal prosecutors charged 35-year-old Jessica Bowie with 1 count of attempting to provide material support to a designated foreign terrorist organization. Authorities say she wanted a, quote, complete disruption of our government.
Ms. Bowie swore her allegiance to ISIS through multiple audio recordings in both English and Arabic. In her own words, as alleged in the criminal complaint, she said, quote, I want to destroy as much of the building as possible and kill the senators while they are meeting.
Joining us now is NBC News national law enforcement correspondent Tom Winter. So, Tom, the FBI says they've been investigating this woman for a month now. How did this case all come together?
Yeah, so she started posting online back in the spring, Garrett, some pretty extreme stuff. She was supporting the terrorist attacks involving 9/11. She gave herself a honorific Islamic name and actually had some of her accounts suspended, which is pretty tough to do. Speaks to the type of stuff she was putting out there. Then she makes an oath to ISIS called a bayah. And when authorities see that, they see somebody who is not only committing themselves to the Islamic State, but wants to conduct an attack. And that's when this investigation really ramps up. 3 FBI informants used throughout the course of it, and they wanted to see how far she would be willing to go, including purchasing bomb-making materials at a local Home Depot. So that's what the investigation uncovered. This is somebody who, as you just heard there from the FBI, special agent in charge in Albany, wanted to commit real harm here.
Well, to that end, the FBI thinks she had bigger targets in mind if this was successful. What do we know about that, and how much of this was talk and aspirational, and how much were they worried she could operationalize this?
Well, maybe my answer will answer that question as well, which is she talked about conducting this attack, bombing the New York State Capitol, then fleeing to Syria, hooking up with ISIS there, and then coming back to the United States at some point to hit New Year's Eve to attack the White House. This is not something that would have likely have happened. If she had committed this attack, any effort to come back to the United States, she clearly would have been arrested. So, yeah, I do think this is somebody who had high aspirations and probably not the high level of expertise to conduct an attack. At the same point, law enforcement feels like we can't really let somebody like this kind of run wild because maybe one day they do something. She was found with knives on her person and that oath to ISIS at the time they arrested her.
And to that end, is there more for law enforcement to investigate here? Like, where does this case go next?
Yeah, I think one of the key things that you see in this is that they were onto the messages that she was communicating with other individuals. Her initial oath was kind of in this halting Arabic. She didn't quite seem to understand all the things that she was saying. She later restated that oath in English. So they're going to continue to be in the spaces where these people are talking to make sure that there's nobody else that's doing this or considering it. They will also follow up with her. Did she have any other contacts that they don't previously know about? She was clearly under surveillance, Garrett, for some time.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Tom Winter, thank you for that reporting. From rising tension on the Korean Peninsula to an incredible rescue in the Eastern Pacific, let's get you globally current on the other headlines we're following today. A military showdown is colliding with a new push for diplomacy. The U.S. and South Korea are ending their annual military exercises 6 days early in a conciliatory move toward North Korea. The North says scaling back the drills still isn't enough to bring it back to the negotiating table. By the way, President Trump says he wants to meet with Kim Jong-un this year. To the Swiss Alps, where a 34-year-old mystery has finally been solved. A melting glacier exposed the remains of two Belgian mountaineers who vanished in 1992. A hiker made the discovery near the Trift Glacier last month, with DNA testing confirming the identities. Swiss officials say discoveries like this aren't new, but they're becoming more frequent as Switzerland's glaciers melt at an increasing rate. And finally, to the Eastern Pacific, where two fishermen are back on dry land after 5 days at sea in a cooler. The men disappeared off Mexico's southern coast after their fishing boat ran into trouble. Rescuers eventually spotted them about 150 miles offshore, alive and floating inside that blue cooler. Mexico's Navy brought both men to safety dehydrated, but in stable condition. Coming up. On the run, police identify the man who terrorized joggers in Philly wearing a creepy Chucky mask. Now they just have to find him. Plus, the latest courtroom testimony in the Tupac Shakur murder trial. The jury hearing from the defendant in his own words. We have more current right after this. From the manhunt for a police officer's wife in Massachusetts to Carmelo Anthony's bid for a new trial, let's get you current on the other headlines we're following today. We begin with the Army's decision to resume Apache helicopter training flights after a crash in Texas killed 2 soldiers. The Army paused training missions last week while it reviewed safety procedures. Officials say the cause of the crash near Fort Hood remains under investigation. The 2 soldiers killed were the only people on board. The search for a woman wanted for questioning in the death of her police officer husband is now entering its 4th day in Massachusetts after new Ring doorbell video was released Wednesday showing 58-year-old Karen Solomon near the family home. Police have focused their search around a local pond, but there's still no sign of Solomon, who police say may be armed. Investigators are also collecting surveillance video from homes and businesses to track her movements. Carmelo Anthony will be back in a Texas courtroom today as he seeks a new trial. Anthony was convicted of murdering 17-year-old Austin Metcalf at a high school track meet last year. During Thursday's hearing, his former defense attorney testified about an agreement that kept certain character evidence about both teens out of the original trial. Anthony's attorneys say that agreement should be reconsidered. The judge is expected to rule on the new trial request by Monday. In Las Vegas, the jury in the Tupac murder trial heard the defendant's own words. The audio is from Los Angeles Police Department interview from back in 2008. In that recording, Dwayne Davis claims it was his nephew who shot Tupac Shakur in the 1996 drive-by. A former LAPD detective testified Thursday that Davis offered up the information about the Tupac shooting unprompted.
We didn't ask him any questions about Tupac. He offered that on his own. It was a surprise to us. Number one, we were shook. We were surprised.
Joining us now is NBC News correspondent Dana Griffin. So, Dana, the defense argues that Davis made those statements to police for leverage in another unrelated case. What happened here?
So essentially, investigators gave him this proffer agreement so that he would have immunity no matter what he said. They were investigating the Biggie Smalls murder, and they said, hey, whatever you say here won't be held against you. Davis himself was already concerned about being or facing federal charges for drug trafficking. And so even in part of that interview, you hear his hesitation. Listen to part of that.
Man, well, I feel I can still go to jail with that, girl, because this is federal. And that's
what is said right here cannot be used against you, Kiki. Nothing you say today can be used against you. So Orlando shot across Dre.
He leaned over on the window. We rolled down the window, popped. Who was it? They would drove on my side. I would have popped them. You know what I'm saying? But they was on the other side.
And so you're hearing very detailed account of what happened before, during, and after the murder of Tupac. And so prosecutors argued that the proffer agreement was no longer inadmissible because of a 2019 memoir that Davis wrote some 10 years after that interview. And that essentially opened up the start of this case, and that's what gave Vegas the opportunity to pursue charges. And essentially, him talking and writing about this case is what got him in handcuffs.
Yeah, I mean, it gets confusing. The defense argument is that Davis was making stuff up, basically, in his memoir and in these interviews. But here we see him telling LAPD basically the same thing. Do authorities have any reason to believe he wasn't being truthful with them?
No, in fact, investigators say they had no reason to believe that he was lying to them. And again, he gave very detailed information, including how he got the gun, including what Tupac did during that shooting. He said Tupac was scrambling to the back seat. He also talked about what happened the last time he saw the gun. He gave a very detailed account about what happened. So investigators believe everything he says, despite the defense claiming that he lied.
So we're about to round out the first week of this trial. Who else are we still waiting to testify?
So the big name left on the witness list is Suge Knight. He is the person that was driving the car Tupac was in. He's the only survivor of that shooting. He has vowed to not cooperate with this investigation. But keep in mind, we've already had two other witnesses who made it clear that they did not want to be here. They only showed up because they didn't want to be held in contempt. So the question now is, will they call Tupac? Prosecutors still don't have to. And if he shows up, will he be a hostile witness? So that question remains to be answered. But that would be a huge get if we were to hear from Suge Knight in his own words, and if he were to cooperate with the prosecutor's questions.
In probably the most high-profile unsolved murder case from the 1990s. Dana Griffin, thank you for your reporting. And now to the search for the man accused of terrorizing people on the streets of Philadelphia while wearing a Chucky mask. Philly police have issued an arrest warrant for a 22-year-old suspect who they called a punk, saying they believe he's fled the state. NBC News correspondent Emily Ikeda has the details and new surveillance footage of his late-night spree.
New video of the masked man accused of harassing and antagonizing pedestrians in Philadelphia. You can see him lurking in this Dunkin' Donuts. Officials identifying the suspect, who wore a chilling Halloween-style mask, as 22-year-old Zymir Hughes, and asking for the public's help. They warn he may have fled Pennsylvania 2 nights ago, and note that he has ties to California and Nevada.
You think it's funny to scare people? Well, get ready to get scared by us.
Hughes, on probation for another crime, is now wanted for assault and other charges for allegedly chasing at least 15 people near City Hall, asking this jogger repeatedly, "Are you ready to die?" according to police, before continuing inside a train station where he evaded officers. Investigators believe he recorded himself along the way and was doing this, quote, purely for social media content. Emily Ikeda, NBC News.
Emily, thank you. So, how current are you on this week's news? On Fridays, we test your knowledge throughout the show. Our first question, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle announced they are returning to the UK. Where do they currently live in California? Is it Palo Alto, A, B, Montecito, C, Calabasas, or D, Malibu? I'm a Royals hater. I know the answer to this question. Scan the code if you want to get the quiz sent to your phone each week by downloading the NBC News app. We'll share the answer later this hour. Still ahead, new details in the sudden death of actress Hayden Panettiere. Her boyfriend now breaking his silence. Plus, new reaction across the pond to the surprise decision from Prince Harry and Meghan Markle to return to England. Why some Brits are not supporting the move. We'll get you current after this. We have new details this morning about a police call for a welfare check at the family home of Hayden Panettiere's on-again, off-again boyfriend. Police responded to the home yesterday morning. They say the call was unrelated to the actor's death investigation and did not require an incident report. Brian Hickerson and his brother were at the scene when she died. We've also learned the DEA has now assigned multiple agents to look into Panettiere's death. Her mother spoke exclusively to NBC News this week. Joining us now is NBC News breaking news reporter Rebecca Cohen, who's been following this story from the beginning. So, Rebecca, Hickerson's attorney said in a statement that this death is under investigation. Now we've got more agents involved. What do we know, if anything, about what this signals about this case?
Yeah, definitely. It means that the initial investigation team with the police department, they have more questions. For example, we know that Brian Hickerson handed to police a bag of prescription medication that he said Hayden was taking at the time of her death. So it's likely that the DEA is going to look into those medications and figure out the answers to questions of, was Hayden actually prescribed those medications? Was she taking them the way that she was instructed to? Or was there a criminal aspect? Did someone illegally procure them for her? And was there a drug or alcohol component related to her death? Essentially, what it means is they have specific questions and they need to bring in these specialists in order to probe that further.
Does this all seem consistent with just a wrongful death investigation, or does this suggest to you that there's more going on here?
Yeah, it's unclear right now. The investigators have been pretty tight-lipped, but I would say it's not completely out of the park, especially when someone dies so young and so suddenly. It's pretty common that there are other agencies brought in and there are a lot more questions that need to be answered.
Among those questions are this welfare check now. What, if anything, do we know about that?
Yeah, again, unfortunately, we don't know much. The Greenville Police Department in South Carolina told us that there was a welfare check just days after Hayden's death at Brian Hickerson's South Carolina home, but that it wasn't related to her death in any way. So, again, more questions.
Her death has put a spotlight here on Neutrogena, who had been a sponsor of hers. I guess she had been a spokesperson for them along the way.
Yes.
They have a new statement out which reads, in part, "We're proud to have partnered with her and understand that we made her feel unsupported during a very difficult time. This is not what Neutrogena stands for or who we want to be." The company has gotten a ton of backlash since her passing. What's going on here?
Yeah, so fans have flocked to social media comments over the course of the last week, basically calling even to boycott Neutrogena because they had resurfaced an old interview of Hayden's in which she spoke about how Neutrogena cut ties with her after she spoke out about her struggles with postpartum depression. So I guess only time will tell to see if fans are satisfied with that statement on Neutrogena's part, but it was definitely something that we were at NBC News expecting to hear from them this week.
A lot going on with this case, a lot of interest in it. Rebecca Cohen, thank you very much for your reporting.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. And to the shocking reversal of what was once dubbed Megxit, Prince Harry and Meghan are moving back to the UK with their 2 children. It's been 6 years since the couple chose to step back from their royal duties, whether it's about security, a career move, or just a desire to be closer to family. The biggest question no one seems to have the answer to is why? NBC News correspondent Danielle Hamamjian has the latest on this bombshell move and what it could mean for the royal family.
Well, the couple left more than 6 years ago, but they never really left UK headlines. But that has been turbocharged, along with speculation. Why now?
This morning, after Harry and Meghan's shock decision to move back to the UK, now the questions, and there are many. Like, why now? The British press has no shortage of theories.
His father is still dealing with cancer treatment, and Harry has made clear he wants to spend more time with him. But I also think commercially there may be a reason why they're moving back. There's a sense that maybe things haven't worked out quite the way they wanted in the US.
Still unclear who will cover the thorny issue of security. Even the Prime Minister weighed in.
This is a private matter. It's a matter for Harry and for Meghan. And we wish them well in the move that they're making.
Harry and Meghan won't return to royal duties, and it's unknown where they will settle. One possibility, the village near Althorpe House, the ancestral home of the Spencer family, where Harry's mom, the late Princess Diana, grew up. Meghan posting pictures of a family trip there in July. Some in the village welcoming the potential return.
It's a good thing to be back with family. So I think that would be good.
But among the public as a whole, opinions may be a bit more mixed.
They trashed the whole country numerous times, betrayed their family, betrayed his king, his father, went out to America, and now they're bored and now they want to come back.
When Harry and Meghan lived in the UK, the pair appeared alongside Prince William and Princess Catherine, once known as the Fab Four, before those relationships turned sour. Now, another big question. Will Harry and the future king reconcile?
There is pressure on William to extend an olive branch, but William feels deeply betrayed by all the allegations. So I think that will take a longer time and sort of remains to be seen.
If there is an event where the brothers might put their differences aside, November's Remembrance Day might be it, usually attended by all members of the royal family. Now, with the King's health in question and Harry, Meghan and their 2 children back on British soil by the end of the month, all eyes on whether a reunion is in the works.
I would love reconciliation with my family. there's no point in continuing to fight anymore.
And add this one to the list of theories going around. Australian media is reporting that Meghan might return to acting once she's back in the UK. We've reached out to Team Sussex. Their response, no comment.
All right, Danielle Hamamjian, thank you for that reporting. So, how current are you? If you've been watching, we probably just gave this one away. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle announced they're returning to the UK. Where did they live? Do they live in California? The answer is B, Montecito. It's lovely out there. The couple has been living in the affluent coastal enclave in Santa Barbara County, along with their 2 children. Okay, let's keep it going with this next one. The 2 major vaccine manufacturing companies, Merck and Moderna, said a vaccine shows promise in preventing which type of cancer from coming back. The possible choices are on your screen right there. We'll have the answer for you in our next hour. If you feel good, scan the QR code. Coming up, robots with moves, robots that clean, and robots that run faster than Usain Bolt. We're live in Beijing, where China is showing off its robotics game. And coming up next hour, IndyCar takes over the nation's capital. We will have exclusive access to the Freedom 250 Grand Prix. More current right after this. You may soon be catching your Amazon delivery out in your yard. Amazon is planning to expand its drone delivery service to 500 cities and towns, aiming to make 1 million Prime Air deliveries by year's end. But their new venture in the air has hit a little turbulence. NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung takes a look.
A homeowner in Texas capturing the moment her Amazon drone delivery went off the deep end. This video shot the same week Amazon announced an expansion of its drone delivery service to nearly 500 cities and towns this year. But with drones crashing into the sides of apartments.
Uh-oh. That does not sound good. Oh, oh my God.
Even dropping a box onto a dog. Questions now if the high-flying tech is ready for prime time, as Amazon says it hopes to deliver to doorsteps and backyards as fast as 30 minutes. Amazon saying in a statement that incidents are extremely rare and that the company will take steps to prevent it from happening in the future. The Trump administration is giving delivery drones a green light.
If you take, some Amazon trucks off the road, DoorDash delivery drivers off the road, that frees up our roadways.
As the FAA tells NBC News in a statement that drone operators are required to report incidents involving serious injury or more than $500 in property damage. For consumers, Delivery by Drone bypasses the traffic, with companies promising faster than ever delivery by air. Uber Eats jumping in, announcing drone delivery in dozens of U.S. cities beginning later this year. The promise of aerial delivery making a splash for consumers nationwide. Brian Chung, NBC News.
Brian Chung by Land and Air, thank you. Now, the robotics race is getting a little more real. From dance moves to backflips to folding your laundry, China is showing off its expanding robotics industry this week in Beijing. Joining us now is NBC News international correspondent Janice Mackey-Freyer, who is there. So, Janice, we're seeing some pretty impressive things from some of these robots.
Garrett, China is investing heavily to build humanoids and robots that can not only break dance or do kung fu moves, but also the sort of household tasks and factory work that might make all of us want a robot of our own. The challenge, though, isn't just inventing the machines. It's making them capable, plentiful, and cheap. And that is where China is looking to take the lead.
They can perform dance moves and show off roundhouse kicks, or maybe offer a ride. Robots, it seems, are everywhere in China, in all shapes, sizes, and speeds, with companies rolling out more powerful humanoid resources. This robot conference, a show of intense competition among startups here. And happening alongside it, the second annual Humanoid Games in Beijing, where nearly 700 teams are expected to compete for gold, more than double the size of last year's. It's all a sign of how seriously China is betting on robotics as the next industrial revolution.
These days, there's a lot of hype around this company, Unitree. That's one of the world's biggest makers of humanoids and robot dogs. The company has just started trading publicly on the Shanghai Stock Exchange, and shares popped 500% on day one.
Its latest model may explain why. A humanoid called Superman that can jump 6.5 feet and claims to sprint faster than world record holder Usain Bolt, although it crashed into a wall right after crossing the finish line. Still, it's leaps and bounds ahead of where sporting humanoids were last year, when we attended China's first ever robot games.
This event is being billed as the first of its kind.
Teams competing in soccer, track events, and tasks like moving luggage.
There are hundreds of robot companies here in China making machines that can do backflips or run faster than people, if that's what you want your robot to do. But a big focus here at the World Robot Conference in Beijing is on robots that can do tasks that are, well, mundane or boring even by human standards.
Daily grind jobs like folding laundry, picking up toys, or sorting packages in a warehouse. Practical work that humans might not mind giving up, or at least that's the way robot developers here see the future.
We don't want to replace person. We want people to have a better job, to have a better life.
The challenge here is turning eye-catching kicks and moves into actual productivity, then scaling it commercially. Low-cost manufacturing here has allowed China's industry to pull ahead. Hefty government subsidies have helped out too. Robots are not without some glitches that come with real questions about safety. Remember when this one kicked a child? This year, there are no robots made in the United States, and none of what's on display here in China will be finding its way to the U.S. anytime soon. The Trump administration banning imports of new foreign-made quadruped and humanoid robots, citing national security and privacy concerns, a move that heavily targets China, which, according to consulting firm IDC, accounts for 82% of the world's humanoid shipments.
There are risks to the approach that the U.S. is taking, but I think their heart's in the right place. They want to build this supply chain, they want to reshore manufacturing, and most importantly, they are worried about national security risks.
After the recent ban, IDC estimates humanoid sales by U.S. companies could drop 58% by 2030 under a worst-case scenario. We reached out to the White House for comment and haven't heard back. FCC Chair Brendan Carr telling NBC News when the regulation was announced.
But one of the upsides of these actions is not just national security, but it is helping to reindustrialize this country.
China's leadership has made robotics a national priority. As the U.S. moves to restrict technology, China is already putting the machines to work.
I, for one, welcome our new robot overlords. Janice, China's clearly making a huge bet on robotics. How far ahead are they right now? What does that mean for the U.S. industry?
Well, who's ahead depends on who you ask. China isn't necessarily leading in every aspect of robotics, but it is seen as having the edge in manufacturing to be able to make and deploy robots at scale. These humanoid robot games that are starting in Beijing this weekend are in some ways a window into the strategy because they're part spectacle, but also part testing ground to show what these machines can do, and importantly, to nurture a market for it here.
The U.S. has real strengths, particularly in AI, software, advanced robotics. But China does have a huge manufacturing ecosystem that's going to drive down costs and put robots to work and at scale. So this isn't just a race to build the most impressive humanoid or the fastest one or the one that can jump 6.5 feet in the air. It's also about who can turn robotics into an economic win. Garrett?
Janice Mackey-Fair, fascinating stuff. Thank you for that report. And there's much more news ahead. The next hour of Current starts right now. Good morning. It's 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 a.m. on the West Coast. I'm Garrett Hake, and for Christine Romans. Let's get you current. Breaking right now, it's deadline day. Just hours left for the U.S. and Canada to reach a deal and avert 50% tariffs, the latest on the last-minute negotiation. Burying the hatchet, President Trump speaks publicly with his fixer-turned-frenemy, Michael Cohen. What led to their radio reunion? The defense nearing the end of its case in the trial of Lindsay Clancy. How soon this case could be in the hands of a jury. Severe storms lash the Northeast with a confirmed tornado in New York. We're tracking a new threat of storms today. Good to be with you on this Friday, August 21st. A lot to get to this morning, and we begin with breaking news and trade talks set to begin this hour between the U.S. and Canada. Mere hours before President Trump's midnight deadline, which would trigger new tariffs on Canada. If no deal struck today, these new 50% tariffs on some $20 billion worth of Canadian goods would go into effect. Earlier this week, President Trump delayed those tariffs by 3 days, saying that the two sides were closing in on a deal. Joining me now is NBC News business and economy reporter Ali Canal. So, Ali, the Canadians confirmed these talks are back on this morning.
Right.
What needs to happen in the next 13 hours?
Yeah, so the two sides were supposed to meet at 10:30 a.m. That got pushed to 11:30 a.m. But we do know that the two sides also met last night, and those talks reportedly went for hours. So it does seem like there are some sort of negotiations in play. Now, President Trump has said that a deal is on the table. It just needs to be finalized. We have not heard the same from Canada. And one of the reasons why these talks are so complicated is because the Canadian provinces, they have to all sign on. So Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney can't just say a blanket yes to everything. He needs to make sure every province is on board here. But you're right. If those tariffs do go into effect tonight, $20 billion worth of goods, these would be retaliatory tariffs by nature. We have seen this frayed relationship between the U.S. and Canada over the past year, sort of this tit-for-tat trade war between the two companies. So there is a hope that a deal can at least get done.
And the president has been known to punt these deadlines before.
Right.
If you look at the context, that last week's economic headlines have not been great for this White House. The debt numbers are through the roof. The bond market's been kind of a mess. What happens if these tariffs get added on top of that?
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing right there on your screen, $40 trillion in debt. Now, if these tariffs go into effect, that's going to create further inflationary pressures at a time when inflation is already high. So these tariffs would set to go into effect for a variety of Canadian goods, from alcohol to clothing to building materials. And then if those U.S. importers choose to pass on those costs to consumers, that's going to create those fears that prices can become sticky for the foreseeable future. And then if investors in the bond market believe that inflation will stay sticky, if they think the Federal Reserve will raise interest rates, that's going to lift longer-term borrowing costs. It's going to make borrowing more expensive for consumers, for businesses, and for the U.S. government that's carrying a lot of interest on that debt. So it's just this spiral effect that we keep seeing over and over again. And the answer is not really clear, but we do know that tariffs would definitely worsen the debt situation.
And the president made this economic announcement this morning on Truth Social having to do with beef prices and beef imports, obviously an attempt to address an issue of affordability for a lot of Americans. What do we know about what's actually in this deal and what impact, if any, it will have the next time people go to the grocery store?
Yeah, well, according to the Truth Social post that you're seeing right now, the president says that for the next 90 days, the U.S. will allow up to 300,000 metric tons of ground beef to come into the country without triggering the higher tariffs that would normally kick in above certain import levels. He also says that there's a commitment for beef to be sold at 25% below the current market rate. Now, a big question, where is this beef coming from? Who would actually commit to that 25% discount? But the reason that this is happening, and it's really been happening for years, is that we have a very tight supply here in the United States right now. So this is an attempt from the president to boost that supply and hopefully bring prices down.
All right, a lot on your plate today, Ali Canal. Thank you for that reporting. And turning now to the extreme weather we're seeing across the country. Cleanup this morning after strong winds and rain slammed the Northeast overnight. A confirmed tornado caused this damage to a beach club on New York's Long Island. You can see chairs and umbrellas scattered all over the place. And take a look at this in the Midwest. Torrential rain caused floodwaters to rise as high as car windows. And the threat isn't over yet. 22 million people are at risk of more severe storms across the country today. Nearly 47,000 people in Indiana are still without power after last week's deadly system. Meanwhile, stifling heat and humidity will send temperatures soaring into the triple digits today. 63 million people are under heat alerts as we head into the weekend. NBC News correspondent Valerie Castro is on the ground in New York where that rare tornado touched down.
Here in Nassau County, New York, the cleanup begins today after those storms battered this beach club behind me. You can see some of the damage that is still left over there. County officials say no one was seriously injured or hurt, but a possible tornado caused severe damage.
Oh, my God.
Overnight, wild storms drenching the Northeast. On New York's Long Island, a state of emergency and dramatic water spouts tearing through the Atlantic Beach area. Cabanas at a popular beach club torn apart. Powerful thunderstorms dumping heavy rain and causing flash flooding across parts of neighboring New York City and New Jersey, too. Dover, Delaware, also under a state of emergency after a reported tornado touched down there overnight, causing significant damage.
Well, that is a slight tornado right there.
Storms ripping the roof off a motel seen from the road. Multiple tornadoes in Graves County, Kentucky, crumpling this giant grain bin and knocking over a gas station canopy. High winds splintering trees and damaging this high school in Columbia, Pennsylvania. While multiple counties in central Ohio are drying out after getting soaked Thursday with nearly 4 inches of rain. The downpours flooding neighborhoods, submerging parks and cars.
The flood, all this, I can't even see my basement.
In other parts of the country, people looking for ways to beat the oppressive heat. Out west, temperatures soaring into the 90s. The Poudre School District in Colorado dismissing students 2 hours early because they don't have air conditioning in stifling classrooms.
Valerie Castro, NBC News.
And NBC News meteorologist Angie Lastman is tracking all this weather for us. So, Angie, what can people expect?
Hey there, Garrett. Yeah, we've still got some of these showers and thunderstorms hanging around for extreme eastern portions of New England, but for the most part, much improvement across parts of the Northeast for now. We are going to see things kind of ramp back up as we get into the weekend, but much quieter than it was yesterday. Otherwise, we've got some of these thunderstorms already firing up across parts of the Southeast, Western Virginia, Western North Carolina. Those are some of the spots that are going to see heavy rain and even the potential for some strong storms as the day goes on. Let's time it all out for you. Here's a look at today. Some of these thunderstorms popping up across the Great Lakes. Watch that system eventually as we get into Saturday. That's going to ramp things up for folks farther east. In the meantime, today, we've still got some of this kind of unsettled weather, as I mentioned, across the Southeast. We are concerned about flooding across the Carolinas for today. Tomorrow, there's the system that I mentioned. It'll slide a little farther to the east. It does bring the chance for some showers and even thunderstorms across parts of the Northeast and the Great Lakes. It'll be unsettled and honestly not a great beach day for folks that are going to be out and about across parts of the coastal mid-Atlantic. Here's a look at where we go for Sunday. Still parts of New England under kind of this unsettled pattern with not a complete washout of a day, but some showers and thunderstorms that'll interrupt your outdoor plans. The good news is farther south, New York City, Washington, D.C., you will see a little more sunshine on the backside of your weekend. Otherwise, today we're watching for this severe threat across parts of the Midwest. Chicago in the bullseye for that. Hail, wind gusts are going to be the main threats. We'll see those same threats across the Southeast, stretching from eastern Georgia up through parts of the Carolinas. Again, wind gusts and hail going to be the main threats there, along with the potential for the flash flooding. This is going to be something we'll see here across this region, at least through the next couple of days, with multiple inches of rain on tap. We'll see 5-6 inches of rain in some spots, and the heat continues as well across the southern tier of the country. High 90s to triple digits through at least the next couple of days. And if that wasn't enough, we've also got some hurricane conditions to talk about as we look off to parts of the Pacific, where the islands of Hawaii are going to see the potential for a hurricane passing just to their south. This is going to leave us with the potential for 10 to even 15 inches of rain as we get into Saturday and into Sunday and Monday for folks on the Big Island. Garrett.
Angie Lastman, thank you. Now to an expanding federal sexual misconduct investigation into former Congressman Eric Swalwell. Swalwell stopped by federal agents at San Francisco International Airport, where his cell phone and laptop were seized. His home in D.C. was also searched the following day. Swalwell is already under investigation in California and New York and has denied allegations from multiple women. NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles has the latest. Ryan?
Swalwell resigned his seat in Congress earlier this year after multiple allegations of sexual misconduct from at least 4 women, which Swalwell continues to deny. Now, NBC News can confirm that federal agents stopped Swalwell at an airport and raided his home in Washington, seizing multiple electronics.
The investigation into former California Congressman Eric Swalwell is growing this morning. A person familiar with the matter tells NBC News federal agents stopped Swalwell at San Francisco International Airport on Saturday, seizing a cell phone and laptop as part of a search warrant related to sexual misconduct claims against him. Agents also searching his home in Washington, D.C. the next day, according to the source.
In order for federal investigators to be involved, there would have to be some type of federal crime that's implicated. So this is a significant escalation of this case.
The FBI declining to comment on the ongoing probe. The search coming 3 months after federal law enforcement reached out to at least one woman who had publicly accused Swalwell of sexual misconduct. That according to a source familiar with the interaction. The married father of 3, once considered one of California's most prominent Democrats and a favorite for governor, resigning his seat in the House and ending his gubernatorial run after multiple women came forward accusing him of varying degrees of sexual misconduct. Lana Drewis says she met Swalwell in 2018 and thought they were developing a friendship. But during their third encounter, she says he sexually assaulted her.
He raped me, and he choked me. And while he was choking me, I lost consciousness.
Ali Samarco and Annika Albrecht, who spoke exclusively to CBS, sharing that Swalwell sent them explicit text messages and nude photos.
It started out as professional and platonic, and then slowly they became more and more explicit.
At the time, Swalwell vehemently denying all allegations.
They're absolutely false. They did not happen. They have never happened. And I will fight them with everything that I have.
But ultimately caving to bipartisan pressure to end his 13-year run in the House.
Overnight, some of Swalwell's alleged victims saying in a statement that today feels like the step toward accountability that we've waited a long time for. NBC News reached out to Swalwell's attorney, but so far, we've not heard back.
All right, Ryan, thank you for that reporting. I want to bring in politics reporter at the San Francisco Chronicle, Sophia Bolag. Sophia, you and your colleagues at the Chronicle were among the very first to report the allegations against Swalwell. Since then, he's resigned from Congress, he's abandoned his run for governor, and now he faces this federal investigation. What are you hearing about these latest developments and what triggered them?
Yeah, so the federal investigators have not been speaking with us on the record and really illuminating why they made this move now. But as you guys mentioned in your report, it really does indicate an escalation in this federal investigation that we already knew was happening. It's unclear sort of where this investigation falls in terms of how far it is along, compared with the 2 local investigations that you mentioned, the one in Los Angeles County into Lana Drew's investigation or allegations against Swalwell, and the other probe that has been taking place in Manhattan into allegations that he sexually assaulted a former staffer in a hotel there.
And Swalwell has repeatedly denied all these sexual misconduct allegations against him. But in a joint statement, some of his accusers say this latest development feels like, quote, a step toward accountability. What are they hoping comes from this escalating federal investigation?
Yeah, I think that the women who have come forward and accused Eric Swalwell of assault or misconduct really are just looking for accountability. he had been denying these sort of vague rumors that had been swirling as he was running for governor. And it wasn't until these women came forward to my colleague and I at the Chronicle, and then CNN, soon after our story published some additional allegations from some additional women. And so I think they've really been looking for accountability. I know at least one woman that we've spoken to really was upset that he was just outright denying that he had ever done anything wrong. And I think that really prompted her to come forward. And so I think the women are really just looking for the former congressman to face some accountability for what they say he did to them.
Sophia Bolag of the San Francisco Chronicle, thank you for your reporting leading the way on this story. The high-profile murder trial of Lindsay Clancy now showing signs of coming to a close after weeks of gripping testimony. Just yesterday, hospital chaplain Sheila Kavanaugh took the stand as the first and only witness of the day. She recalled her first meeting with Clancy just one day after the killings of her 3 children. The first thing Clancy said to her, quote, "I'm so glad my children are safe." The defense is expected to rest its case as early as today. Closing arguments would then be expected to start as early as next Monday. Joining us now is NBC News correspondent Stephen Romo, who's been covering this case for us. So, Stephen, the defense is calling their last witness today. What can we expect to hear?
Yeah, Dr. Philip Resnick is the last defense witness that we do expect to hear from. They're having a bit of difficulty right now with them. He's talking to them via Zoom, but he could be potentially a very important witness for the defense. He was an expert who was on the Andrea Yates case in Houston back in 2001, and he can sort of tie this all together for the defense. The slow deterioration that we've heard reported already about Lindsay Clancy's mental health, leading up to and including the killings on that day back in January of 2023 rather. We're expecting to hear more from him just as soon as they get those technical kinks worked out.
And the prosecution may call 3 rebuttal witnesses all today. What do we make of that timing?
Yeah, so the prosecutors, they had 70 witnesses. There were so many witnesses for the prosecutors already. These rebuttal witnesses, what we've sort of been waiting for, this expert versus expert. Rebuttal is supposed to be very focused, though, and that's what we expect from these rebuttal witnesses, these psychiatric and psychologist experts to, poke holes in, I guess, what the defense has put together so far with their experts. They have their second expert on the stand now to talk this through, to try to explain an alternative to Lindsay not being in a full state of psychosis, that they're likely to say that she could still tell right from wrong while clearly suffering with mental health struggles.
And the chaplain was the only witness we heard from yesterday. Talk about why her testimony was so important and what we learned.
Yeah, honestly, bit of a bombshell from the chaplain yesterday, talking about, she was one of the first people to talk to Lindsay in the hospital right after the killings. The day after the killing was the first time she visited her. And once Lindsay had the tube removed from her throat, she was able to speak and talked about, as you mentioned, the children being safe, which the defense will point out and has pointed out shows that she was in a state of psychosis when that actually happened. Prosecutors did poke a bit of holes or try to push back, rather, against the chaplain, saying she did not take contemporaneous notes documenting things that Lindsay told her, like this voice that was in her head that told her to kill the children and then herself, according to Lindsay there. So it'll be interesting to see how jurors, if they are going to believe the chaplain was lying or if they're going to think that maybe she was telling the truth.
And of the jurors, I understand the judge dismissed them early for the second day in a row yesterday. How unusual is that? What do we make of that?
Yeah, this got a lot of attention. So on Wednesday, one of the experts for the defense left suddenly. We have reporting from the Boston Globe, who was on a top story with Tom Yamas last night speaking about that. So that seems to be what it was. It's not clear if it was a medical issue or what the emergency was. She was then dropped off of the witness list for whatever reason. But they also yesterday, they ended early and had the preliminary charge hearing where both sides were talking about what instructions the jurors were get. So the jurors were dismissed early, but they still had some business yesterday.
Taking a little bit care of a little business. All right, Stephen Romo, thank you for your reporting on all of this. And still ahead, Stop the Scroll, how Meta is pushing back against claims it knowingly designed its platforms to be addictive. And why can't we be friends? The surprise reunion between President Trump and his former fixer, Michael Cohen. Plus, a grandmother with a green card fighting to stay in the U.S. after being sent to a detention facility. Her family sharing her story. We'll get you current after the break. Old foes, now apparently friends again. President Trump appeared on Michael Cohen's radio show yesterday. The two have apparently buried the hatchet. At one point, Cohen even brought up a Bible verse about forgiveness. The duo also bonded over their claims of weaponization.
An advocate, and then they weaponized you like nobody's ever been weaponized, like few have been.
Well, maybe just you and I, sir.
And you, yeah, me too. But I don't consider mine. Mine was at a level that nobody's ever seen before. But they weaponized you. They weaponized a lot of people, and I respect the fact that you recanted everything you said, and that's a big thing that you did. That's a very big thing.
And joining us now is NBC News politics reporter Megan Brand at the White House. So, Megan, I'm old enough to remember when Michael Cohen was testifying trying to put Donald Trump in jail. How did their relationship get to this point now?
Yeah, it's a huge shift, Garrett. And just to take you back a little bit, I want to tell you a little bit about how they've previously talked about each other before, with Michael Cohen having previously called President Trump a racist, a con man, and a cheat, while President Trump, meanwhile, has called Cohen a sleazebag and a rat. So this conversation, though, took on a pretty different tone, and this was really a 180 from what their relationship had been like for the past couple of years. And so in that conversation that took place yesterday, Cohen had referred to President Trump as boss and had also floated the idea of some kind of press conference laying out the president's accomplishments. So a pretty different tone there, with Michael Cohen also, especially in those remarks that he made before and after that conversation aired, talking about the idea, indicating that the two had even forgiven each other. Garrett.
And Cohen obviously has some federal criminal convictions on his record. He served time in prison. There's obviously this question of whether this is all about seeking a pardon. I understand you have a new comment from the White House on that.
Yeah, so this comes yesterday after Cohen was asked in a CNN interview about whether he has asked President Trump for a pardon. And Cohen had said that he had not asked President Trump for that, but he had previously submitted a pardon application during the Biden administration, which had been rejected. Now, he had said that then he had resubmitted the application to the Trump administration and that it was on his to-do list to follow up about that. So we reached out to the White House to see if they might be able to provide a comment on Cohen's comments on CNN, and this is what a White House official said. They said that the submission of a pardon request should not be interpreted to mean anything other than an individual has chosen to submit a request. They wrote, the team that reviews clemency requests at the White House is not tracking this request at this time. The White House has a thorough review process for all clemency requests, with the president under his constitutional authority to be the ultimate decider. So something that we're tracking, Garrett, to see if that warmer conversation that took place yesterday potentially sways President Trump in terms of any consideration for a pardon for Michael Cohen.
Yeah, and despite everything the White House says about the process, we do all know ultimately this comes down to President Trump and what he decides. So we'll watch that space closely. Cohen has obviously been a fierce critic of the president. The president was kind of putting some words in his mouth a little bit yesterday, but how is his language now evolving?
Yeah, so it was interesting to see the difference in the language between these two men during this conversation. So you had Cohen really emphasizing forgiveness, the forgiveness aspect of this, particularly in his comments before and after. And he had said as well that, basically the idea that forgiveness is not about erasing history. It's about having the courage to decide that yesterday will no longer dictate tomorrow. But meanwhile, for President Trump, there were parts of this conversation that sounded a little bit more like something that you would hear in in one of his speeches or campaign rally, where he talked about things like Iran, saying that he would make that decision again 100 times, emphasizing that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And so pretty different rhetoric coming from both of these men, but Michael Cohen really emphasizing forgiveness here, Garrett.
It's been an interesting 24 hours. Megan Brand, thank you for covering it for us.
Thank you.
And now, from a card game competition to the U.S. Open's new Grand Slam prize, let's get you financially current. First, a check on Wall Street. All three major markets are now up this morning. The Dow is up about 400 points this morning, despite what has been a difficult week on Wall Street. Bond yields are ending the week at decade-high levels, despite the Treasury Department's buyback plan. A cultural phenomenon is making a comeback with a $50,000 prize at stake. Mattel announcing this week they're holding a nationwide Uno competition. Qualifying rounds will be played online and in person near Orlando over the next 2 months. The finals will be held in Los Angeles in November. And the U.S. Tennis Association is offering a history-making prize for this year's U.S. Open. Overall compensation for participants is up to $108 million. That's a 20% increase from last year. It's $140,000 for each player who just makes it into the main draw. Singles winners will take home $5.5 million each. Not bad. The first week of testimony has wrapped in a landmark trial against Meta. A coalition of state attorneys general is accusing the tech giant of designing platforms like Facebook and Instagram to get kids hooked on social media. Meta denies those claims. Court resumes Monday morning with the states planning to bring a psychologist to the stand. Meanwhile, in a separate but similar case against Meta, YouTube, and Snap, a New Jersey teen dropped her lawsuit against the platforms. TikTok was also named as a defendant in that case, but chose to settle. A lawyer for the teen says she wants to try and get back to her life. Joining us now is New York Times Silicon Valley correspondent Mike Isaac. So, Mike, thanks for being with us here. The states are claiming Meta basically put profits over the safety of kids. States and federal lawmakers have also talked about putting restrictions on social media. How is Meta pushing back against all of this?
Yeah, it's one of these things where the company has to actually strike a difficult tone, I would say, is, you know, there are young people on their platforms that feel real harms and go into, browsing different content from stuff that ranges from eating disorders or, self-harm issues, like a lot of stuff that Meta tries to take down. But Meta also says and maintains they do not believe that their products are addictive. They're not they reject the notion that they're comparable to cigarettes and the big tobacco cases of so many years ago, and really are trying to say we are building tools into our products to give parents more control over their kids. So I think the idea is to push back on it's your responsibility. It's the parents' responsibility, but also give them the tools to do that is their position.
Yeah, I mean, as a dad, I follow this pretty closely. A lot of other countries are starting to ban younger people from even being on some of these social media platforms. If Meta, takes that hit, if something like that were to happen here, with Meta losing access to this younger user base, what happens to it and some of these other social media companies?
I think you're hitting on this real existential issue for them, and one reason, at least beyond the billions of dollars in penalties, that they're fighting these cases so hard, not in just the United States but across the world. In Australia, there is people under the age of, I believe, 16 are not able to use social media products. In the EU, they're debating this issue very much right now. And these are generations of people that could be lifelong Facebook and Instagram users that Meta needs to continually keep in their pipeline, else they, be concerned they go the way of MySpace, something that you and I probably remember, not sure about all the users. But that's the thing, just always staying relevant, and young people need to be continually using the app to do that.
Mike Isaac, you could be in my top 8. Thank you for that reporting.
Thanks, Garrett.
All right, you bet. Breaking news now. In another major case, this one in the UK, Prince Harry and 6 others, including Elton John, ordered to pay $13 million following a failed invasion of privacy case. In a statement, the justice presiding over this case said that the payment must be made within 1 week to the publisher of Britain's Daily Mail newspaper. This marks a major loss for Prince Harry, who recently announced he would be moving back to the UK after 6 years. And still ahead, IndyCar takes over the nation's capital. We're in Washington for a race weekend. And why a green card holder and elementary school teacher is in immigration detention. Her story when Current returns right after this. From a deadly air collision to a major leak involving a highly anticipated video game. Let's get you current on other headlines we're following today. We're getting a new look at a deadly air collision in Pennsylvania. New video shows the moment a small plane veered off course during landing, slamming into a state police helicopter hovering near the runway. The plane's pilot was killed. 2 troopers inside the helicopter managed to get out okay. The NTSB says it's too early to determine whether either pilot was at fault. Gaming fans are getting an unexpected look at one of the most highly anticipated video games of the year, Grand Theft Auto 6. It appears hackers have released parts of the game online. The group calling itself CyberLeak is claiming responsibility. It says the hack is a protest against the industry's shift towards all digital releases. The company behind the blockbuster franchise hasn't commented on the apparent breach. And relief is on the way for the roughly 5,000 sailors and Marines aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln. A U.S. official confirms to NBC News that the aircraft carrier is headed back to the United States after spending more than 250 days at sea. Concerns had been raised about deteriorating conditions aboard the ship and a growing mental health crisis among the crew. Navy leadership has pushed back on those claims. A longtime green card holder is fighting to stay in the U.S. after ICE sent her to a detention facility in Georgia. She's a school teacher and diabetic, and her family says she followed all the rules. NBC News White House correspondent Yamiche Alcindor has her story.
Last week, when federal agents detained Venkata Vasamsetti, a longtime green card holder, her daughter was shocked.
She's not a criminal. She's a community member. We've been here lawfully. We've done things, we've done things by the book.
Venkata, a mother and grandmother, first came to the U.S. from India around 1999, legally with a visa, according to her family. Later, she was granted a green card and has worked for years as a public school teacher in North Carolina.
They are saying that...
Her lawyer, Helen Parsonage, says her ordeal with federal immigration officials began in February 2023.
When she came back from a 7-month trip to India to see her aging parents, they put her in deportation when she came back, saying she had abandoned her green card.
Under immigration law, staying outside the country for more than 180 days could trigger a reinspection of a person's green card status. Venkata fought the case, and a judge dismissed it on May 19th.
The judge terminated it, and we were like, okay, there's no case against her. That was honestly the biggest relief I've had.
But in August, Venkata went in for a check-in with ICE that was previously scheduled. That is when they detained her.
ICE officers should have taken one look at the dismissal of her case and said, ma'am, thank you for coming in. Your case appears to have been dismissed. You don't need to come in anymore.
She is now in a detention facility in Georgia. Her lawyer said Venkata doesn't have a criminal record or even a traffic ticket. How unusual is this case given all the cases you're dealing with every day?
This one to me stands out as particularly cruel and unnecessary. Nothing has changed except the desire to lock people up and to bully them and blandish them into giving up and leaving the country.
Now Venkata will have to fight the same allegations again. That comes as last year, ICE began arresting a surging number of immigrants at check-in appointments. According to internal ICE data reviewed by NBC News, over 40,000 people in ICE detention in early August were non-mandatory detainees, meaning they were not deemed public threats and could be released. In a statement, the Department of Homeland Security defended arresting Venkata, saying she is alleged to have abandoned her status by violating her residency conditions and will receive due process. DHS also saying being in detention is a choice and that she could self-deport now.
She has no reason to deport herself. She has a green card. Her family is here. She is in detention because DHS chooses to detain her.
Her daughter left filled with fear. What is your biggest worry right now for your mother?
She's severely diabetic. She's not getting the medical care that she would receive outside of a detention facility. She's not receiving enough food.
On Thursday, a judge granted Venkata a bond hearing, a step her lawyer hopes will eventually allow her to stay in the U.S. What would you do if the United States told you your mother had to leave?
I don't know. That's kind of like, okay, well, there's our pillar that's gone.
Yamiche Alcindor, NBC News.
Thank you for that, Yamiche. The speed limit on Pennsylvania Avenue in D.C., it's 25 miles an hour. I've learned this the hard way myself. But this weekend, IndyCar will be going 8 times as fast, doing nearly 200 into 25. President Trump is bringing a race to the nation's capital. It's the latest and fastest of the events to mark America's 250th. But not everyone in the nation's capital is thrilled about this development. Joining us now is NBC News legal affairs reporter Gary Grumbach. So, Gary, you went on an exclusive ride-along. Tell us what you saw.
Hey there, Garrett. Yeah, I'm wearing a button down and a jacket now, but just about 90 minutes ago, I was getting into one of those Chevrolet cars. It was an unbelievable experience, going upwards of 140 miles an hour in a Corvette. You can see me there in the polo and the helmet all ready to go. We went 140 on Constitution Avenue, and I can say you haven't lived until you see the federal courthouse going by you at that speed, and you see the art museums. And that's a little bit of what the folks that are going to be driving in the race, the Freedom 250 Grand Prix this Sunday, are going to experience. It's the first time this has ever happened in Washington, D.C., a street race with IndyCar like this. And it is going to be hundreds of thousands of people coming to watch this. There were free tickets that were given out and sold out months ago, but it certainly has taken up a large portion of Washington, D.C. here, Garrett.
Very cool experience for you, Gary. So we also know GM is launching a veterans initiative related to all this. What can you tell us about that?
They are. So when members of the military leave the military, they have a whole bunch of skills, but they don't know exactly what to do next. And GM is trying to help fix that. What they're doing here is giving $3 million to organizations around the country that help train members of the military after they leave the military in jobs related specifically here to the automotive industry and exactly what they're doing there. So they're giving money to help get those military members jobs, because 1 in 4 members of the military have a job right after they leave the military, and they're trying to make that number greater. Here's what Jesse Uwuji had to say.
They're investing $3 million basically into this amazing program for vets and for folks who have military-connected families, where the Stars, Stripes, and Skilled Trade Initiative, they're basically going to create these pathways for people to transition out of the military, find a way into a career in the automotive industry, in the manufacturing industry, by getting them trained up, getting them all the tools and equipping them to have success in that world.
Jesse told me they have all kinds of skills and they just need to get them some jobs. Garrett?
Gary, you talked about the tickets going fast, but all news is local. How is this race being received in D.C.?
Well, it depends who you are. If you're an IndyCar fan, you're loving this, right? You're coming to D.C., you're going to love every single minute of this. But if you're just a resident of D.C. trying to get around, trying to get to work, trying to get to one of the art museums, it gets a lot harder, especially here in Washington, D.C. Roads have been closed here in the area for weeks. And, of course, there was a significant security presence with the president expected to be here on Sunday as well.
Gary Grand Prix Grumbach, thank you. So, how current are you? Earlier in our news quiz, we asked you this. Merck and Moderna said a vaccine shows promise in preventing which type of cancer from coming back? The answer is A, melanoma. While the companies have not published the trial data, they said in a news release that the experimental treatment delayed the recurrence of melanoma among high-risk patients. All right, here's our last question on this Friday. The U.S. debt crossed what threshold after doubling under Presidents Trump and Biden? If you think you know the answer, you want to sign up to take the full NBC News quiz? Scan that QR code on your screen. The answer is coming up. Also coming up, this might be the hottest save the date out there right now. We'll talk about the fan frenzy over the upcoming release of the latest installment of Dune. And hold the phone, yes, the flip phone. We get a first look at the OG style making a comeback. We'll get you current after the break. Dune Part 3 doesn't come out for another 4 months, but fans are already battling it out for tickets. Early access opened Tuesday for anyone hoping to reserve their seat in premium format. But fans quickly reported that the apps for both AMC and Fandango had crashed. It got so bad at one point, the head of AMC put out a statement saying, quote, "It's a high-class problem to have such staggering demand, but even so, it is intolerable and inexcusable. We thought we were ready, but we weren't." And the frenzy goes beyond online. Fans lined up in person at this AMC location in New York City. Joining us now is entertainment journalist and pop culture expert, our own Lisan Al-Gaib of movies, Brian Balthazar. Sorry for the Dune deep cut, but I got excited. So coming out of COVID, movie theaters were really struggling as an industry. What's driving the renewed excitement now?
Well, it's so interesting you say that, because the first Dune made about 411 worldwide. And some of that was because part of that was maybe it could have done better if it weren't during the pandemic, because part 2 then jumped to 715 million worldwide. What I think this says is obviously a great story is something worth attending, but the director in particular has now has his audience knowing that they want to see this in a particular format. These premium formats that you referred to in your introduction, it's not just for people who don't go to see IMAX films. It's not just that you're seeing it blown up. You are seeing more movie. Literally, the framing is different than you would see on an ordinary screen. And so we're now learning that these premium formats matter. And these directors are people who love these kind of movies want to see every square inch of the story.
No, it's such a good point. I mean, you heard all of a sudden all around the country, people were talking about 70 millimeter film in the context of the Odyssey, where nobody was ever talking about like anything like that before. It was just, what movie are you going to go see? How mainstream is that market becoming? Are we going to see more people building more IMAX theaters around the country?
Absolutely. So we already know there's a backlog of 434 systems worldwide for IMAX. This is a backlog dating back a couple of years. So they know that this is the future of movie making. We know that movie theaters can't compete with your couch as far as convenience is concerned. So now they have to make it an event. They have to make it worth your while to go to the theaters. Keep in mind, for Dune Part 2, about 145 million of the box office came from IMAX. IMAX screens only consist of about 1% of screens in this country. So 1% of screens accounting for 20% of the box office take, that's a big deal. And obviously, businesses are listening to that like, oh, they need to act fast. But these things take time to build and install. But you can see there's clearly a demand for it.
No, absolutely. If you're going to hire a babysitter, if you're a parent, if you're going to make a night of it, you want to have the experience all be worth it. Brian Balthazar, thank you for breaking that all down for us.
Thank you.
Now, what's old is new again. Major phone manufacturers are pushing to get flip phones, flip phones back into consumers' hands. Apple is reportedly preparing to debut its own foldable iPhone later this year. Samsung already has some of these phones on the market, and they cost way more than the non-folding phones in your pocket and mine. NBC's Brian Chung is on the line with this callback.
Hey, if anybody needs to make a call, I've got a phone.
It was the status symbol of the 90s and early 2000s, when phones used to flip,
hello,
and slide.
Hello?
And even the trendiest stars couldn't pick up on the next big thing.
All right, I don't know how to work this.
But oh, have the times changed.
And we are calling it iPhone.
Touchscreen smartphones ushering in a new era. Fancy features to call, text, take pictures, shop, and scroll social media. Still, that single flat screen couldn't compare.
I traded my smartphone for this flip phone 4 days ago.
I love it, I love it, I love it. Hello?
History has always kind of repeated itself with phones. We went from brick to flip to brick with full keypad to brick with a touchscreen, and now we're flipping back.
Companies including Samsung and Google releasing new generations of foldable smartphones.
To switch phones, you have to be open to what's new.
But could a foldable from Apple, rumored to come out next month, be the one that people will really flip over?
If and when Apple jumps in the game, does that mean that foldable phones are coming for everyone's pockets?
Not everyone's pockets, unless they've got big pockets, literally and figuratively, because they cost a lot of money and they're pretty big.
These phones start at $18.99, but at least some may be willing to open their wallets, with estimates showing a 20% growth in the market for foldable phones this year.
Ahead of what could be a brand new foldable iPhone, we're going to test out two devices already out on the market, starting off with the Google Pixel 11 Pro Fold. This is a phone that expands to an 8-inch screen and has 3 cameras on the back. And also the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 8. This expands to a 7.6-inch screen with this kind of passport-style shape and has 2 cameras on the back.
The phones are actually lighter than your standard iPhone Pro Max, but some of the biggest questions is the middle crease distracting, and how do these phones hold up with constant opening?
The idea that you're closing a screen can be more prone to breaking, right? It's fundamentally a screen sandwich, and that can cause issues.
As for the screens, they were large enough to be used as an e-reader or to watch your favorite show.
The dimensions on the Z Fold 8 are basically exactly the same as your Kindle.
The size comes with some compromises.
I have to hold this thing with 2 hands, so I gotta tuck this under my arm to make sure I don't drop anything.
The larger screen did help me multitask and take nice photos. What I can do is flip this around, use the better cameras on the back, and take a nice selfie. Look at that. Look at those pearly whites. but the true test may be winning over the billions of smartphone users around the world.
Give it an open.
Oh. Just too big for me.
Yeah.
Also, like, you're at work and it's like noticeable when you're not supposed to be on the phone. Yeah.
The iPhone 17 Pro is already, what, $1,400 already?
Yeah.
So it's not a bad price.
So you'd be open to spending the little extra money for this?
For sure.
Yeah.
Do not need anything bigger, but I think it's cool.
A cool factor that may bring these phones into the fold.
Brian Chung, NBC News.
Brian Chung speed scrolling TikTok on his giant phone. All right, so how current are you? If you've been watching this week, you know the answer to this. The U.S. debt crossed what threshold after doubling under Presidents Trump and Biden? The answer is C, $40 trillion, trillion with a T. Some budget watchdog groups have warned that this country could erupt into a full-blown debt crisis unless lawmakers raise taxes, cut spending, or both. If you like the quiz, you'll want to download the NBC News app to get all the questions sent to your phone on Saturday morning. It's a good way to stay current. Up ahead, one program in Vermont helping women breaking into male-dominated industries. It's part of our series, 50 States in 50 Days. And a pizzeria in New York City serving up kindness one slice at a time. We'll have more current right after this. In our series, 50 States in 50 Days, we're introducing you to people making a difference all around the country. Today, we're in Vermont, where an organization is introducing women to traditionally male-dominated fields. Here's Lindsay Jones from our affiliate in Burlington.
Vermont Works for Women is bringing its Trailblazers program to Manchester, Vermont. It's a free 7-week apprenticeship program open for women.
They always tend to tell us that it was a safe environment. It was an environment where they could ask questions, that nothing was a dumb question.
During the first 5 weeks, participants both spend time in a classroom and apply their new technical skills during community builds.
We run them on nights and evenings, so where if somebody does have a full-time job, they're still able to go to their job and come to classes at night.
To wrap up the program, participants are connected with local employers for paid work experience. The organization's executive director says this kind of exposure is critical. Many trades are still male-dominated in Vermont, and exclusion can start young.
Boys are invited to help their dad fix up things in the yard, or, hey, come help me with this car. Often girls, young girls especially, are overlooked to just kind of build skills in that way.
For some women who go through the program, the training leads directly into jobs, and then they return as mentors. Participants say that representation is encouraging.
If you don't see yourself represented, it's very difficult to see yourself going into that job role or to feel supported in it.
Staff from local companies are happy to see opportunities for women to explore trades at an earlier age.
I'm 55 years old, so growing up, I wanted to take wood shop. And we, girls actually weren't allowed to take wood shop when I was in school. You had to take home economics and sewing.
I'm Lindsay Jones in Rutland for NBC News Now.
Lindsay Jones from our affiliate in Burlington, thank you. And now on the bright side, New York City is famous for its pizza, and one shop is serving up something extra, a little bit of kindness. Andrew Stiff from NBC New York shares this slice of life.
There's a rhythm to making pizza, and it's how Daniel Romano of the Bronx makes his living. It's also how Romano makes living a little better for those in need.
There was a gentleman who threw away a box of pizza, like the crust. An elderly woman, 60, 70, something in that area. She went in there, picked it up, and started eating it. I took her by the hand. I said, come over here. I brought her to the pizzeria, and I gave her a fresh slice of pizza. She got emotional. It was happy tears. It's the best way I could explain it, because she wanted to eat.
He posted a sign on his shop to the people eating out of the garbage. I have more love for you than you think.
What do they say? Dan, I'm hungry. What happens?
That's all they have to say, and I give them a slice of pizza.
The new philosophy applies, no matter what the customer looks like.
They're dressed to the T, and they asked me for a slice. I said, I don't have any money, can I? And I still don't say no. Hello, Romanos.
Word spread like sauce on a fresh pie. And new visitors stop by the pizzeria on East Tremont Avenue.
God bless you. Anytime.
It's really touched by it. It's really a good thing that people do good things like that.
The generosity warmed hearts in this working-class Throgs Neck neighborhood. Says crossing guard Fran Ricciardi, it's about watching out for those around us.
You have people that ignore that, and then you have businesses that see that, and they care.
You're welcome. Somehow it hasn't cost Romano extra dough.
How do you stay in business that way?
I'm here. I'm paying my bills. I'm paying my taxes.
His simple act of pizza kindness.
You hear the crunch?
Even if it does cut a bit from the bottom line, pays dividends and reminds Romano what he learned from his mom.
My mother, the Carmela Romano, may she rest in peace, she always told me one thing. A desperate person will always make a better decision on a full stomach than on an empty. If people are hungry and they don't have money, why not feed them?
Andrew Siff having a lot of fun with that story. Thank you. And we want to send you into the weekend with some Friday feels. Remember this ham on the lamb? His high-speed chase went viral online.
Hey, come back, pig. Hey, come here, pig.
Fans affectionately named him Wilbur, and now this little piggy is heading all the way home. Wilbur was adopted yesterday by Grammy-winning songwriter Diane Warren, who lived the hog life on her 7-acre animal sanctuary in Malibu. We're grateful you joined us today. NBC News Daily picks up after a very quick break.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.